Hey there, everybody. Hope you're having a good day. We are down next to the woods. Actually, I think that's in camera. You're on the front of the phone camera right now. So I hope you're looking at my little bayberry bush, my northern bayberry, Latiny bits right here. Um, but I was talking the other day about how I have portable shade, but by virtue of the way that our planting structures are around the edges of the yard, uphill of the main food forest project in a forest area, uh, I also have the capability of moving my own workstation around when it comes to splitting cuttings or updating projects or moving projects forward by a step once a certain stage has been reached and a decision can be made. So I thought I'd bring you along for the ride for that. So stick around. Oh, almost forgot to hit record. So what we have here is bucket A for the Rose of Sharon cuttings experiment. Some of you who have been watching some of these may recall that I also have some planted in an air prune box like way up there. And I also have a few dozen that are stuck directly in the ground way back there. And so we have two additional bucket propagation stations. These came out of a somewhat sunny, somewhat shady area this afternoon with me once I had a well-shaded area to work in down by the edge of the woods where I can toss the ones that have not made it, such as this bad Larry right here. But I figured that rather than just do the work, I should probably take a break for my own mental health and bring you all along for it. So let's dig in. This particular bucket, bucket A, you can't see the marking because it's not greened, it's branded pot. And so this is bucket A. Bucket A has a few drainage holes on the bottom and a few inches of some garden soil, some sticks, some potting mix, some rabbit poop, some biochar that you can see right there, and these cuttings which are left. Some of these are the sticks that I'm holding off because I don't want to move the cuttings around too much and damage the roots, because some of these are pretty well rooted, and this one in particular, it looks a little flimsy down there, but it's also got some of the most growth. It's about 4 inches of a new shoot on top of this stick, and life has been a little too busy for me to be paying very much attention to these. So this is very similar to the ones in the field, which is kind of sort of close to a stun method of propagation. But let me tell you about bucket number 2 after I turn it so that I'm not showing off branding. Oh my gosh, there's branding all over. Okay, well, this is the one that I'm currently going through, and you can see that this one is the water propagation ones. And I do not have as much nice growth on these, so I don't think that a water propagation is really the right method for these. We did have a slightly better success rate in the one where the Rose of Sharon were stuck with some of the hybrid willows, but not really that much better than this. And the willows definitely made it a target for our birds. So I think the Rose of Sharon in that bucket also suffered from browse and from knocking. And so what we're going to do is we're going to grab a couple of these, and I will disturb a couple of these, and we'll do a little contrasting compare. And we'll talk about it, I guess, if I think of something else to talk about it. It is a few minutes later, and I have extricated a few more. So we're going to go a little bit out of order. This is from bucket B, the one with the water-based propagation. And so I'm gonna bring these onto a leg so you can kind of get a better, clear view of it. And so here we have a whole lot of rootlets forming along the base of the stem, and you can see, oh, you can't see if I move the camera too much, you can see that they're pretty fibrous, which says to me that they are looking for more nutrient and kind of searching. But I'm pretty pretty excited about seeing so much rooting potential. That's not really the craziest one, but we're going to go through a couple just to show the variation that we had in the group. And so here is sample 2 from bucket B, the water bucket, and a similar rootlet formation pattern as expected, mostly around the growth nodes, the leaf nodes where the branches are splitting, those little knuckles. So right in here and right in here predominantly, and I see less around the initial site of the cut, which is a little interesting. Usually, in my experience with some of the other shrubs that we've done like this, the trauma response is to send out whatever is needed to seal that wound. And so it is a little interesting that I don't see any root formation, but it could also be because it is a Klein cut. Clean, but also Klein. And so here is sample 3 from bucket B. I'm worried I just teased and showed off number 4 from bucket B, but you can see a little bit more definition to the rootlets, and these would actually be considered root protrusions or actual roots at this point. Not quite enough to sustain how much of this plant there is. This all needs to get trimmed back before it is transplanted or potted up or anything like that, but we're just kind of taking some out as a sample to observe and to document your interest and just to go back and check notes. So sample number 3. So then we have number 4 from bucket B. Look at all of that explosion, and similarly a Klein cut. And this is more or less what I would have expected from the other Klein cut. Some of these were more perpendicular to the growth of the stem, and some of them were a Klein cut. And this is more of the response that I expected from stick number 2. And yeah, so this is doing nicely, and we actually have a modicum of growth all the way up a good chunk of these stems. There's still a little bit at the end where it just wasn't quite enough to sustain, but we have a decent amount of growth and budding at these points here. We'll just kind of do it like this. Yeah. So we have good color on the leaves. We have a good bunching and grouping at these leaf nodes. And I would be excited to put this into a pot or a garden and just do a little bit more trimming up on some of the dead stuff and let this grow out for a season. So now we're going to move on to bucket A, which was the potting mix and rabbit poops and biochar and stuff. And so, nope, no root. A little bit of growth, surprising amount of energy left in this little stick, but this seems like close to all it was able to accomplish. This one is a little bit on the smaller side. It's only about, it's like exactly the length of my thigh, and I am not a tall person, despite how I hold my camera. And so, yeah, number 1 from bucket A. A little disappointing, but also considerably surprising that it has so much energy to persist this late into the season without putting out roots. I bet the ambient humidity from the substrate was really what was propelling it. Here is sample number 2 from bucket A. Again, a very modest amount of growth from the potting mix bucket. But we do have a little bit of rootlet formation down at the cut. And so, yeah. That's okay. This would be difficult to nurse along, potentially. I'm not sure. Probably worth a shot. it's probably going to get potted up just to see how these do in a pot with this level of development at this point in the season, because data is fun. But we'll take a look at sample number 3. Sample number 3, story, a tale as old as this video, I guess. Not time. Time's old. This is a fairly new story. But again, modest leaf growth, less energy embodied in this stick than the other, and no root formation. So, yeah. And then we'll take sample number 4 from bucket A. And a quick special note. Look at that. It's got a little friend. Cute. Oh, cute. So, this one was also in the center, also fairly small. But this one has, an inch and a half roots growing from it. So, I think thicker is better. I think avoiding the dual stems. This probably. Well, I was pointing at the screen, folks, and that's not how this works. So I think separating these two and maybe selecting either for splitting the knuckle itself or this joint in the stem. I think splitting either right down the middle so that each of them had a growth bud might have benefited this particular cutting a little bit more. And so we have 8 samples that we can pot up, and I have a couple extra follow-up notes at the end. So yeah, hang on. I just wanted to make a note here that several of these, this one with the 4 to 6 inches of growth, very firmly rooted in. I'm not tugging hard, but I'm meeting resistance where I can tell that these roots are intertwined with each other. And so I know that some of these are sending out additional roots over and above what I can see. Not this one, so yep. And yeah, I'll probably end up flooding this a little bit with some of the duck water when I go to lift these out, just to provide a little bit of a slurry so that the soil loses its grip, and maybe the root exudates from the watering will give me a little bit more slipperiness to them. But I think that will really help extricating these, and we should be good to go. And I have one other special note that I would like to make, and that is, I was dumb and I stuck one of these in upside down, apparently. I don't claim to know what happened there, but if we look very closely at this stem that had the most submergence, and I'm going to zoom you in progressively. Yeah, look, it's a familiar sight at the base, or the really this was the growth tip. So we're looking at right here is towards where the top of the plant was, and you can see rootlets forming right where these shoots are. And so I wouldn't have expected the Rose of Sharon to have this kind of rooting behavior from its growth tips. This is more of a trait, at least in my experience. Please feel free to correct me, drop a comment. Comments do actually help the channel. Not that I make anything except friends off of this channel yet, but every little bit helps, so appreciate it if you do. But in my experience, it's more the trailing shrubs or the drooping forms that have this growth behavior. And this is a fascinating little discovery that I was not expecting. And I wonder if any of you were expecting me to find this. I wonder if any of you were expecting me to accidentally have put one of these in upside down. That's not generally how I roll, but yeah, that's an unexpected result, and I'm, I guess, glad for the happy little accident, because I learned something today. So that's my little update for the Rose of Sharon experiment. I am not quite yet prepared to dig up the ones that are over in the field or the ones that are up front by the or in the air prune boxes, but yeah, this was interesting, and I'm really glad that I stopped to actually record this so that I could share it with you folks, for those of you who are interested. So, uh, yeah, I guess that's it. So, till next time, thanks for watching. Happy planting.